let me just ask you about what you think about her selecting Tim Walz then,
Mhm.
because that seems to me a much more left-friendly pick than I've seen in my lifetime for vice president.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I said this earlier, if Clinton were running for president right now, honestly, either Hillary or Bill, they would have picked Josh Shapiro and then
Oh,
tweeted out
100%.
like a mocking. They would have mocked the left and made a thing out of it, and then
Hmm.
gone to a corporate fundraiser and use that to get some checks. So this is like I think a good sign. What's your assessment of it, and if you could talk about Walz a little bit?
Yeah, Walls kind of did like I have an interesting history with him because I was a big Whitmer pusher very early on just to kind of prove a point to people. She was always my kind of platonic ideal of like a generic Democrat. So when she was passing all those laws in 2023, I would always be like, this is what we could have if not for like Biden insisting on staying in the race. Because I was really big on Biden dropping out. Like I think like as early as April 2023, I was like making arguments about that. I was in this for the long haul. And Whitmer was my big kind of example I used for like how you could be more successful. And but Walls at the same time also had his majority. And I have a lot of followers, a lot of readers from Minnesota, an alarming amount of readers from Minnesota. They would always like go up to me in my replies and just always point out like, no, Walls is better. Walls did this. Walls did that. Like you're sleeping on Walls. Like you need to get Walls pilled. I'm like, and I just like got kind of annoyed and contrarian about it. I was like, shut up. I don't care about him. He looks like he's 80 years old. I would like made like some like tweet like making fun of them saying they were NPCs. But like, so that kind of like left me sort of like polarized against him. So when I made my list, he was kind of an afterthought for me. I put him like in like C tier, like kind of like I didn't really see what like kind of the idea was. I had him ahead of Pete. I
I
had him,
love
I
that you
think.
have the same
Yeah,
fixation on rankings that I do. It
yeah, I
helps
do. Yeah.
categorize our minds. Okay, go on.
Hmm. Yeah, but so I like really, he was just kind of like an example of me, like, oh, this guy's, I guess he's qualified, but he doesn't come from like a swing state, and like I guess like there wouldn't be anything wrong with him. But I thought that it wouldn't really add anything to the campaign that like someone like Bashir or Cooper or Whitmer could, or Shapiro initially. I was kind of intrigued by before like all the scandals came out, and I was like, okay, we're done with this. And Callie also like having his terrible record. Uh, but then like Whitmer says she's not running. Cooper bows out of the race. Bashir kind of flops on TV, and Walz is sort of like does his very successful push, and he sort of like takes that slot as like the non-centrist, electable sort of middle of the road Democrat that like I feel like Cooper or Bashir or Whitmer could have if they either like wanted to try in the case of Cooper or Whitmer, or they were actually good at television in the case of Bashir. So he kind of takes that spot that I always saw as the ideal pick for her by default, while Shapiro and Callie are like kind of running to the as far to the right as possible. There's like all this stuff going on out about there. Not really that like Shapiro, but I mean like he doesn't he refuses to apologize for that terrible racist essay he wrote when he was 20 years old. And so like I kind of really warm up to him as like kind of the pick that makes the most sense. And so I write this article about him. I try to kind of temper expectations. He does have that history of success in rural areas, so his persona does have bring results to a certain degree, like people expect. But since he's gone statewide and run for governor, that appeal is diminished. Part of that's due to polarization, and he couldn't really do much about it. But it does show that like there is kind of like a waning effect here. He's not like the same politician he was when he was winning his district by 30 points in 2008.
But
Nobody
it
really
also
could.
made him more left and more
Yeah, it
liberal and
did.
governing in that particular way. Like, what do you think this says about the incentive structure for Kamala Harris and who she should be appealing to? I also like the fact that he's a congressional veteran that has
Hmm.
some ties to Congress, and even our new friend Nancy Pelosi was pushing for him,
Hmm.
in part because I think she actually wants to get a domestic agenda through Congress, and he's by far the most beneficial person based on like anyone from AOC to Joe Manchin is saying they like this
Yeah.
dude. I mean,
Yeah. When
this is if she wants an agenda passed, he could actually help.
Yeah, just through that experience. But it also shows, I think, and this is the most encouraging part of the pick for me, beyond the fact that I think he's good electorally and is a good speaker. It's ironic because I think he was kind of picked to a certain degree, that, like, so he wouldn't outshine her. But I think just watching the speech they gave yesterday and in Philadelphia, he's a significant, I think he's a better public speaker than she is.
Yep.
He's like, I think he already kind of outshines her, even though he's not trying to. I think he would obviously be a better person at the top of the ticket, just like for a fresh start in that respect. But like, there's nothing. She's really kind of unaccomplished electorally, so anybody I think would have kind of upstaged her in that respect. But the thing that was the most encouraging to me is that, according, I think, to the New York Times, a thing that attracted her to Walz was that he does have that record of passing a lot of progressive legislation that she supposedly wanted to be her own legacy and her priorities in Congress. And the big thing with Walz and Whitmer, at least for me, like back in 2023, where there was a lot of kind of discussion and despair over like the rotating villain theory, or like how committed are liberals even to like these boilerplate parts of their agenda, Walz does show that they were at least willing to walk on that, and like really like do a lot of work with a very small majority, like political. He said that his philosophy is to burn political capital instead of hoarding it, which is the opposite of the Rahm Emanuel sort of view of politics in a way that I think is really encouraging. But the fact that Kamala sees his kind of politics as a model of the politics of actually passing things and leaving a legacy, compared to the Shapiro or Kelly kind of politics of just playing to the middle as much as you can and trying to just win elections without doing much with it, I think that like reflects kind of positively towards her mindset. And I think that like that is a good choice if she does intend on actually getting those policies passed.
I totally agree with you. I think it's a party-wide shift, too, because Sam often describes Biden as a cipher for the Democratic Party. I think she's more of a cipher. And I think
they both are.
But he has, like, obsessive Zionism, like, as an ideology. He's the credit card senator.
He's also not there
mentally. I mean, that's part of the issue. Like, she's more of a cipher in the way that I think is more positive, to be honest with you. But we're running a short on time, so I just had to get your thoughts on Shapiro and that implosion. Like, the spin that he took himself out of the race is hilarious to me. It's hilarious. It's like I didn't break up. You didn't break up with me. I broke up with you. I mean, and all these pro-Obama pundits, he's clearly associated with like that consulting class of folks, coming out and essentially saying, they just didn't see eye to eye on the role, as opposed to, and he maybe wanted to continue his term in Pennsylvania. Like, what were his upsides? He didn't. His candidacy was sunk by a series of scandals that included anti-Palestinian racism, a buried
sexual
murder
harassment
case.
scandal in his office also. Sexual that was the thing that really made me like, okay, this is it.
Or was it anti-Semitism, Josh?
No, it was it was sexual. Oh yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that was all unexplained. It is kind of funny because you see all these right-wing pundits are like visibly kind of pissed off that she didn't go with him, like trying to see like, oh, like how are they not choosing this good pick who would have won them the election, when it's clear, like it's really obvious they just wanted to talk about that murder case from now until November.
Yeah.
So I think she dodged a bullet in that respect. I don't want to like deny Shapiro's political talents. I know he's an Obama impersonator, but like not everybody could win by 15 points in Pennsylvania. There is something there, but I don't like agree with him on policy. I think Walz, like you can make the electoral argument for him. He's certainly like somebody who I'd vastly prefer to be a president one day compared to Shapiro, even though Walz says he is not interested in that. I mean, I guess we'll see. There's also a story that said he was preparing for this opportunity for 13 months. Which is something kind of curious to do if you're that unambitious. So I don't know about Walz 2032, but I'd prefer that over Shapiro 2032, definitely.
Definitely, and he would still be younger than Trump, I think. He's got
2016. Walz is like 60. Yeah.
Walz is 60. He just looks older, right? And he has a funny anecdote about how you lose all your hair when you're a public school teacher, but yeah, exactly, right. We're in a much better position. Absolutely, he'd be 68 in 2032. It's
not the worst thing in the world.
No, not the worst thing in the world. Shapiro, it's just like the other lie that was pissing me off was that his Israel policy is no different than that of the other candidates. I heard that over and over. Anytime the criticism would come up on cable news, the anchor would say it, specifically on CNN. That's a lie. That's just a lie. It's a complete lie. Shapiro volunteered in the IDF, wrote an anti-Palestinian racist article back when he was in college.
Proposed to his wife in Jerusalem.
Was coming out against Ben and Jerry's, refusing to
he enforced anti-BDS laws. Most liberal Zionists won't even go up to bat for anti-BDS laws.
Yes.
It's Like he had like tweets talking about how like Netanyahu was like this great leader, and that was in 2011. Netanyahu was going against Obama administration policy there. That was, if you're like a good Democrat who supports your president, then you do not back like a foreign leader who's going against your own country's policy. The only other person who did that at the time was Joe Biden, and I guess that's why he liked him so much. So yeah, that would have been really unfortunate because he definitely would have run for president eventually. And so I feel like we dodged it because these VP picks do matter. At this point, we're on Obama's VP's VP, and it's like there's like a real chance we could be on Obama's VP's VP, like in 2028 or 2032. Well, definitely 2032, 2028 is not going to be competitive if Kamala wins. But like these things do matter. Like it's kind of scary how consequential it could have been. And I think we definitely landed on one of the better outcomes. I still, like I'm sad, it wasn't Whitmer, though. I think that would have worked. But
I know,
whatever.
well, I know, but that's too much estrogen.
Yeah,
so,
too much girl boss power. America would have been scared.
You're right. All right. Well, Josh, everyone, please read Ettingermentum. It's on Substack. We will put a link to that below. Thanks so much for coming on today. Really
no, it's great. It's my pleasure.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.